So you're there from 6:15 to 5:30. That's a long day. They're like, oh, we're all going to go to Top Golf. I'm like, I don't know. Like, you should go. It's your first day. I'm like, I kind of want to go home. And they made me feel that was the wrong thing to say. They all jump on it. Oh, like we got to become a family here. We all work together. So I went to Top Golf with them, and it's like I was with them from 6:15 until about 10 at night, and then you go to bed and get up at 6:15 the next morning and spend all day with them again. They didn't want me to go home to my girlfriend, or they didn't want me to go home and relax. They always wanted me around as much as they could.
RJ, when you reached out to us initially, you said you worked with Cydcor, and you said in your message, using your words, quote, "Unfortunately for me, I was the perfect target for these people." Right. So could you tell us, first of all, going into this, as most people, you had no idea what you were getting yourself into. Like, what were you feeling going into this, and why would you describe yourself as being the perfect target?
Well, when I fell into it, I just moved from Pittsburgh to Fort Lauderdale to pursue a career in aviation. I was going to get my pilot's license. Did that first couple months I was down here, and I decided I didn't want to do it anymore, and I needed to find a new job. So my entire life, I'm like, oh, I'm going to be a pilot. I thought my career path was chosen, and then that didn't happen. So I'm struggling. I'm like, oh, now I got to find a new job. Pop on Indeed. I'm searching. I got my girlfriend searching. I got my mom from Pittsburgh. Like, I need to find a job. Fell into it. Completely green in the field. I had no idea what the red flags were. And then before I knew it, I was employed by them.
So how did you get in? Was it just because it was a quick process, like quick interview, job offer, or was there anything about the job that appealed to you? What was kind of the thinking going into it?
It was listed on Indeed as a marketing job.
Okay.
No mention of like sales. Like, what I was doing was hardcore, like door-to-door, business-to-business sales. That was nowhere on the listing. Found it as a marketing job. Applied for it. I was working as a bartender at the time. A couple of days went by. I got a call. They wanted an interview like the next day. So I thought, I'm like, well, that's cool. Like, didn't take too long.
Yeah.
So then we can get into the interview process later. But the Indeed post was nowhere close to what the job actually was.
Let's talk about the interview process. Did it go 3 rounds, or what stuck out to you about it?
I walked in the interview. I lived in Fort Lauderdale. The interview was in Hollywood, which is a suburb outside of Miami, about 25 minutes away from my apartment. Okay. In an office building. I remember walking in. It was like loud music. I could hear what I would later know as the morning meeting going on in the back. And I thought, oh, that's different. Like, I thought I was going to walk into an office job. And there was a girl about my age working the front desk area talking. She's like, oh, yeah, you're hearing this is the atmosphere we have here. It's fun to work for. It's not a typical office job. And I interviewed with the owner, who, again, shielded. He made sure I brought nothing but a copy of my resume. So I walk in there with my resume, and he immediately takes it, flips it, and starts writing on the back of it, talking about the, what do they call it? Their training program, talking about how much money I could make, and still have no idea what the job is. Talking about the atmosphere, talking about how, oh, you'll have fun at work. It's not a 9-to-5 job. It was just total camouflage. It was just what they've probably done a million other times.
For sure. Yeah. Now, what's interesting, so number one, anyone watching these videos knows that your story is fairly common. A lot of the messages I get from people who do interviews or not, it's very similar. that they have little to no experience in sales or marketing. They don't really know what to look out for. They're drawn to it because either, like, quick interview time, you had submitted your application, and then the next day they want to do an interview. Especially for someone who hasn't gotten any bites anywhere, this can be very intriguing. It's not a boring job, office job, things like that. So there are a lot of what we would now call red flags, but probably at that point, appealing things, little things that could appeal to the normal person. Now, you were not there for very long in Cydcor. You were there, I think you said, only a few weeks, like 3 weeks.
Yep.
And before we started our conversation today, you said that this was about 1.5 to 2 years ago. So even though you were only there for 3 weeks, this is something that has had a massive effect on you.
Yeah.
Even this amount of time later. So first, take me through those 3 weeks. Like, even now, after all this time, what do you remember about, selling, the morning atmosphere, and just the norms of your day for those 3 weeks?
Well, I remember in the interview, he wanted me to start the next day as a trial day, see if you like the job. And he wanted me, because I was working as a bartender, he just goes, yeah, go in to work, quit your job, just come in tomorrow. I'm like, okay, you're going to offer me the job. We come in the next day for the trial day, and he tells us to wear like full suit and tie in the middle of Miami. And, so, and I'm in a bad area of Miami the first day, right outside, kind of a sketchy neighborhood. So I remember walking into these businesses in a full suit and tie. Half the people there, they don't want us in their business. It was threatening. Like, yeah. I'm watching these people. As soon as I walk in the door on my first day, already getting yelled at, and I didn't know what was going to happen. So that was my first red flag. Like, this is like, I thought this was marketing. I'm still on my way to the field, still thinking, like, why are we going away from the office? Like, marketing is like, they marketed it to me as like, we come up with campaigns for big companies.
Yeah.
So not until I walked into that first door did I realize I was signing people up for T-Mobile deals. And I remember before the field went out, that morning meeting, basically circling everybody up. No one can sit down. There's no chairs. And the owner is just saying these like chants. I felt like I was like getting initiated into a fraternity, like very odd. And everybody, like, he would clap and everybody would know to like respond with like either like pounding their chest, and he would say to the leader, who was the leader the day before, how much they sold, praise him, say everybody else needs to try harder. Everybody wants to be the top seller.
Yeah.
Or I forget what they called him, the high roller.
High roller, yeah.
Yeah. And basically got right into like saying how, oh, you got to overcome the objections and push through them, and they just don't understand. It's just, and then barking about how much money you should be making. And it was just, it's like a cult. It is like a cult.
Mm-hmm.
And I had the wool completely pulled over my eyes. I'm like, okay, everybody in here is young. It's an us against them mentality. I'm going to go into it with an open mind. And it didn't take very long for me to switch off of that role, but.
Sure. So it sounds like you had suspicions from the get-go. Like, not only were you lied to, right, because you found out this is a door-to-door sales job, which they never said anything about sales, but it was just a weird vibe, and I know that all companies there's different company cultures. Every business runs their business a different way, but it just seemed weird, right? The chanting and like you said, the cult-like practices that these places practice, that these places perform, and it's all ritualized. It's all done for a reason to kind of get you in, to get you feeling good about yourself, and to feel like you're part of this insular group, which you really are. But it seems like you were not. You weren't all in. You kind of kept those suspicions at the front of your mind.
Mm-hmm. I remember getting handed a script the day before my trial day about the pitch, and you got to stick to the pitch. Don't add your own words. Don't try to spice it up. Stick to the pitch. telling me it's like homework. Go home and try to memorize this. Come back the next day, which he wanted us there at 7 a.m. And he goes, come in earlier and work on your pitch. So my first day work, I show up 6:15 in the morning to work with him on this pitch, which even reading it, it's like, I cringe, like thinking about it now, I cringe that I had to say that to people, because I see, like the business I work in now, I see people doing the same thing, come in the door, give that almost the same pitch, and then everybody just talk about them when they leave. Like, can't believe they're coming into our business like that unannounced. But I remember going in early, working on this pitch, and the morning meeting didn't start till 9. So 3 hours.
Wow.
Me sitting in a room with all the other people they hired. Another thing I noticed is 3 people were in the room when I did my interview. All 3 of them got hired. And I thought that was kind of weird, because in the interview, he was telling me how they don't just hire anybody and they need a particular person. So that was another red flag that I decided to ignore for some reason. Work on the pitch, do morning meeting, go out into the field. And like I said, I still didn't know on my way into the field that I was going into random businesses. Very weird.
So, after that day, you have an idea of what this job, this opportunity is. Did you, voice concerns to anybody, the person who interviewed you, or the owner, anybody else, about this isn't what I was told it was going to be, this is kind of weird, or did you get the impression that that wasn't tolerated?
I thought it was a little weird, but the owner kept telling me, like, this is just a stepping stone. Like, I remember him telling me, I already have enough people in the field. I need people that are closer to me. So go through the stepping stone of the field. We'll get you promoted up into management. And then after management, you could own your own. You could have your own people, start learning how to run your own company. So I thought, all right, maybe he's just throwing me in here as a stepping stone. I still thought that he was worth being like for some reason. He was young. He told me 3 times during the interview he had a brand new Mercedes out front. He lives on the water down in downtown Miami, that he's only 26 years old and he owns his own company.
Yeah.
Like that. And I brand new into the field. I thought, wow, this kid must be successful. He must be doing something right.
Yeah.
But
all right. So, I think for many people in jobs, even jobs they don't really care for, 3 weeks isn't that long. But when you're trapped in Cydcor, Smart Circle, Credico, 3 weeks can be an excruciating long time. So, and I know that in your message you said that you had a lot of bad experiences in that short amount of time. So, take us through some of those things. What sticks out to you now, even today, all this time later?
yeah, I remember, like I said earlier, being in sketchier neighborhoods. I'd walk into these businesses. People who barely spoke English, they see somebody walking into their business in a full suit. They either thought, A, I was with the government, or B, I was a cop. So they immediately shut down, get defensive, either threaten to call the police on me or straight up threaten to harm me if I didn't get off their property.
Yeah.
And then I remember they brought guys in from one of their offices. They kept calling them their branches, from Nashville, to come in and train. And this kid was around my age, kept telling me how he left his high-paying job to come to this job because he wanted to be his own boss. And just the way he would pitch people, he was relentless. Like, we'd go to a business, they'd say no. And then the next day we'd circle back, go to the same business, talk to the same person. They'd say no again. Or like, I go out to lunch with the kid and we're at Taco Bell and I'm trying to eat my lunch and he's giving the pitch to the cashier. I'm like, just very pushy, like a used car salesman kind of deal. And it seemed very scummy to me. The kid they flew in from Nashville to train me, he went out with me in my route, went to a business. It was a father, a grandfather, and 3 daughters. And we ended up signing them up. We switched them from Sprint to T-Mobile. Now, we were in their own business. The daughters kind of sold the dad because we sold them, oh, we'll get you the brand new iPhone. We'll cut your, we'll get you unlimited data, everything. Daughters sold the dad. The mom was there. She wanted nothing to do with us. She's like, these guys are door-to-door salesmen. Why are we even listening to them? Why are you still here? Daughters convince them. Mom's still not sold. I remember her going out into the parking lot and like taking a picture of my license plate. Like, so the next day comes to, this was the kid from Tennessee's last day. The next day comes and my owner tasked me, since it was such a big application and a big sale, to go there and set their phones up for them. I don't know how to do that. I don't know what I'm doing. It was my first day in the field alone without that kid. Like, I barely even know how to fill out the remaining paperwork. So I remember going in there and just winging it, messing up their phone. I didn't know how to set them up. They call T-Mobile complaining about me, and T-Mobile kind of shrugs it off like, yeah, like they go into a T-Mobile store too. And the guys at T-Mobile were like, yeah, you really shouldn't purchase contracts off guys that go door to door. It's technically not illegal, but we would advise you not to do it. And I remember what made me super mad is that kid gave that dad my personal cell phone number. So the next day after that, after I messed up their phones, because I didn't know what to do, sending them to the T-Mobile store was my way out. I'm like, listen, just go to the store. They'll fix it. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to leave and never come back. So I remember the next day I was going home to see my family for Thanksgiving. I'm sitting at the airport and my phone rings with a number I've never known before. And it was the dad of the family who signed up, threatening to sue me and saying that I committed fraud. And this is when I was still employed. So I call my owner and I say, listen, I have this guy calling me. I don't know what to do. And he basically just told me to ignore him. Just ignore him, block their number. And I said, why? And then I wanted to contact the kid who gave him my personal number. I was like, why would you ever give these people my personal number? When I contacted him, he didn't answer. He was doing the same thing to me.
Of course.
So it was just a very bad situation. I had the dad calling me, the mom calling me, threatening to stick lawyers on me. And it was all because I was thrown into this situation that I didn't know how to handle with no training to try to break my back and make the scumbag above me money.
Yeah. Yeah. I found it interesting that even going to a T-Mobile store, who is supposedly the client, they're telling them, these door-to-door reps that are supposed to be representing us, you probably don't want to deal with them. I think that's eye-opening. That's the first time I've ever heard that, as at least as direct as you said. Because I know I've heard stories from others who have gone to Sprint stores, T-Mobile stores, whatever, Verizon, and the actual employees there, they'll talk about issues that they have with Cydcor salespeople and either lying about it or whatever. But I've never ever heard an actual company say, yeah, you shouldn't do business with these people. They're basically fraudsters, even though they're supposedly representing our company. That's bizarre.
The way I view it is T-Mobile probably knows that it's not the most honorable way to make business, but even if we sign up 2 or 3 people a week, I mean, there's really no risk for them. It's not their employees getting the money. And I remember part of the pitch was T-Mobile was very adamant by saying we can't say we work for T-Mobile. We have to say we're business representatives of T-Mobile. I'm bouncing all over the place here, but the first day there, it was a Thursday night, which they called team nights.
Oh yeah, team nights.
So I show up at the office. I'm there early at 6:30. We don't get out of the field. We weren't allowed to come back to the office for the end day until at least 5:30. Mm-hmm. So you're there from 6:15 to 5:30. That's a long day. They're like, oh, we're all going to go to Top Golf. I'm like, I don't know. Like, you should go. It's your first day. I'm like, I kind of want to go home. And they made me feel that was the wrong thing to say. They all jump on it. Oh, like we got to become a family here. We all work together. So I went to Top Golf with them, and it's like I was with them from 6:15 until about 10 at night, and then you go to bed and get up at 6:15 the next morning and spend all day with them again. They didn't want me to go home to my girlfriend, or they didn't want me to go home and relax. They always wanted me around as much as they could. So
yeah, common cult tactics. I mean, we've learned that from speaking to many people, isolating you from your support system. That does a couple things. Number one, it kind of lets your guard down, and number two, it prevents you from thinking. It doesn't give you time to go home and vegetate and think, and then other people can come in and be like, this sounds kind of weird, and starts putting that seed of doubt in your mind. And just like all cults, like you said, they're a family. The family word is perverted in this sense, because I mean, you can like your coworkers, you can spend time and have fun and go out, but they've perverted it to the sense of, no, we are all you need to know, we are all you need to be a success, and you need to dedicate every waking moment within reason, somewhat, to us, and spend as much time with us as possible. So yeah, that is I mean, looking back now from a normal, quote unquote, a normal job opportunity, definitely strange, for sure.
Strange.
Now, something else you brought up in your message was you attended a dinner. You
Correct.
said you attended a dinner with who you called a Cydcor higher up, and you can identify them if you want. It's up to you. And to use your words, that all but put the final nail in the coffin for me there. So, usually when we hear about going to business dinners, it's a positive experience. You learn about growth, you learn about all these wonderful things, but that sounds like it had the exact opposite effect on you.
Yeah. I went, I remember at the beginning of the week, the owner came up to me and said, the higher up, whose name is Bob Park, I believe, he is responsible for bringing the T-Mobile pitch to Cydcor. I don't know what they said his title was. He said, we're going to go down to South Beach, and we're going to go, and he kept dropping this real expensive restaurant. It's called Smith & Walensky's. It's a 5-star restaurant in South Beach. He says, we're going to go there. We're going to wine and dine you because we appreciate you. We treat you're like a family. We treat them right here. So the day of the dinner, I believe it was a Wednesday night, at the last minute, they switched the restaurant to somewhere different. So we're not going to the expensive restaurant that we told everybody else we were going to. We go to this Italian place in Miami. So we're sitting there waiting for him. He's about 25, 30 minutes late. Comes and sits down, makes sure he tells us how expensive his suit is, and how many cars he has, and how beautiful his wife is, and how he started making all his money in the field just like us. So he kind of picked up that I was kind of like looking at him like, who's this guy think he is?
Yeah.
So the owner, Krystoff, asked him, like, why don't you like tell us more about it? Like, give these guys some advice. And he looked at me, he goes, I don't want to. He's like, what do you mean? He's like, you could tell he picked up that I wasn't buying his crap, and he shut down. Didn't want to talk to me, basically just sat across from me the whole meal, didn't really talk. All he talked about is kind of focused in on the other two that were with me. Mm-hmm. Like, so how are your sales doing? Then I remember looking at the owner and him kind of being frustrated that our numbers weren't higher, like right in front of us. Like, you should be selling this much. When I was in the field, I was selling this much. Basically just bragging the whole time.
Yeah.
And I just picked up, like, if this is who I want to work towards, I don't want this job. Mm-hmm. And that was when I was out right there. So I remember going to the field the next couple of days. I would just sit in the park because I was in my own car in the field, wasting my gas, putting miles on my car to go to business for these people. I remember just sitting in the parking lot of a Wendy's and just doing nothing but applying for more jobs all day until at 5:30 when I can come back to the office.
Oh, I'm sorry you have to go through all of that, but I love that. That's my favorite part of this whole story. Is that, to me, that's probably the day best spent in the field right there.
Yeah.
Is any day you can apply for other jobs to get the hell out of this garbage.
Hmm.
That was your best day in the field. Doesn't matter if you sold anything. That was a day well
It
spent.
was actually on top of that day when I already knew I was out, because my mom she's not here, so I had to know if she's back in Pennsylvania. So she has years of experience working. She saw all the red flags, and I was trying to sell her like, no, it's good. Like, you don't understand, because I was hypnotized.
Yep.
So it was actually the next day when I told her the names of like the owner, and because she thought it was weird the whole time, and she was just doing research online, and she stumbled across that Devilcore website,
Yeah.
and she sent it to me that day, and that's when like everything fell together. Like the dinner from the night before, my mom's like, you got to look at this website, like tell me if this is like what you're experiencing. And I saw my owner on that website, saw the man I had dinner with on the website, then went down the wormhole of everybody else's experiences, and that's when it clicked in.
I'll tell you this. I think this is one of the purest interviews we've ever done, and I mean purest because we've checked off so many boxes here. You know, you were the, like you said, the ideal candidate for getting picked up by these companies. All the red flags that I've been hearing about for over 5 years. You mentioned them. These big wigs, right? You know, we don't know how much money Krystoff actually has. He might be living in a 2-bedroom apartment with 4 other people for all we know. You know, the Bob Park guy, he could be just a giant poser too. You know, we don't know. That's the thing about this cult, is that you don't know who the people are who actually have money and who are the people who can act like they have money. You know, either their families have money. That's something I've heard a lot more about lately, is that these owners who come from wealthy families give off this impression of wealth because their families have wealth, but they're making $20,000 a year. Or, you know, they're able to buy the nice watches and buy the nice suits and appear wealthy, but it could have just been a one-time couple $100 purchase. It could have been a gift from somebody else. You don't know. And the lies, like you said, from the job ad, a marketing job, which is actually a sales job, from the time you are advertised this job to the first round interview, to getting into the field, not knowing what you're going to do, to sitting down with these losers, let's face it, they're losers, these cult leaders who are trying to scam people as a career path. It's all lies. It's all deception. From the word go, from the gunshot, it's all lies. So to know what is truthful is so difficult. And, you know, I commend you for being able to listen to your support system. Like you said, your mom sent you the Devil Corp website, which is an incredibly invaluable tool to so many people. And the common response for a lot of people when they get something like that, like you said you had for a while, is, oh, you don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
But thankfully, you already had the doubt there, that it was kind of a bucket of water on the seed of doubt, and you were able to grow up from there.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think, thinking back now, and I know you kind of had doubts the whole time, but let's say first week, you know, you're still being sold all this BS, and your support system was coming forward and saying, you need to get out, you need to get out. Would you have had the same response, do you think?
The first week, I was still had the wool pulled over my eyes. I still spent trying to convince. It was just me and my girlfriend in Florida at the time. Or the rest of our family and friends are 1,500 miles away, just us. And she was kind of skeptical about it, and I would convince her I was doing what they were doing to me in the interview. I was like, no, it's all right. You don't understand. I was there. I see it. Like, it'll be all right. Like, I'll make some money. We can, and we like, that's how we'll live. Like, it's just me and her. We got to make money. We got to provide for ourselves. And I told her that this opportunity was better than any opportunity I could find. And I thought it was what I wanted to do. And I was trying to convince her, probably subconsciously, to convince myself.
Yeah.
So I remember that, just convincing her, and still trying to convince my mom and my dad. And like I said, they were skeptical about it the entire time. They weren't fooled at all. and it was me who was telling. They kept
Yeah.
they wouldn't, like, they don't have a say, like, you can or can't do it, but they were like, maybe you should look for something else, like with a real company.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to hear it.
Yeah. I'm really glad that it only took you a few weeks to see it, because I know I've talked to people who've lost years of their lives to this with nothing to show for it. And my primary goal with this going forward, however much longer I do these videos, my primary goal is to get this information in front of people somehow before they get involved in it, so they know exactly what to look for. And we've had some success for sure. We get messages like that all the time, but there's still plenty of people that get sucked into it. Having experienced this, is there anything that you think people can do or should do to try to prepare themselves more, so they don't get sucked into this thing?
The biggest thing I took coming out of it is when you're in a job interview and the interviewee or interviewer, sorry, spends more time selling the job to you than asking you questions to see if you're a fit for the job, that's a red flag. Because, like I said, I now work for a Fortune 500 company in a sales position. I see how it's supposed to be done, and it is night and day from my process from a sales position at Cydcor to a sales position of where I'm at now.
That's excellent. I think that's excellent advice. And the whole operation is sales. And I think if you have to sell a job to anyone, then it's probably not worth having.
Exactly.
The job should speak for itself.